بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله ومن والاه وبعد. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه. يا رب لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد عبدك ونبيك ورسولك نبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من علوم لا ينفع ومن قلوب لا يخشى ومن نفوس لا تشبع ومن عيون لا تدمع ومن دعاء لا يستجيب لها. اللهم أخلصنا نيتنا والأعمالنا يا أرحم الراحمين. قال سبحانه وتعالى: أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. على بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. صدق الله المولانا العظيم. My beloved Murabbis, elders, brothers of my age, people younger than me, lots of nephews today, surprisingly enough, mashallah, quite a few here at the front. Everyone who's here upstairs and downstairs, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First and foremost, I have to give a small apology. Brother Abdul Kalam, who would normally be taking today's halaqah, had some emergency family issues in St. Albans, and I became the lamb to the slaughter basically. So I hope you can bear with the quality of sheep that you have in front of you, inshallah. First and foremost, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the opportunity to be in His house. We praise Allah for guiding us. Alhamdulillahi alladhi hadana lihada. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us hearts that have some kind of connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hearts that have some level of awakening for the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For many of you who are here, there could have been the same amount more. For whatever reason, Allah chose you and I to be in His house and did not choose them to be here. And that in itself is a matter to be praised. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gifted us the opportunity, the moments and the time and the health and the wealth, all of which are His blessings upon all of us. Every one of you who is here, beginning with myself, we should thank Allah for allowing us to be in His house. Many of our own family members, I begin with myself, why should I talk about other people, could have been here for whatever reason they're not here. Some of you maybe have that situation as well. Many Muslims know about the house of Allah. They probably walked past the house of Allah and didn't come into the house of Allah. Forget about the Gansil Halaqah, but to come and pray Salatul Isha or before that Salatul Maghrib. So every one of us is blessed. The fact that we were able to pray Isha is a big blessing. Don't ever take granted the guidance that Allah gives you. For today I am guided, but tomorrow there is no guarantee of that guidance. Every Friday the Imam recites for me and for you something very important, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. And do not die except in the state of submission or as a Muslim. Now death is something that I and you do not control. When we will die, how we will die, where we will die, at what time, these are knowledge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is just an example of how you and I are the creation and He is the creator. As Allah is al-Khaliq and we are makhluk. We are the creation. Now, that reminder in that khutbah every Friday, وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. And do not die except in the state of submission to Allah, in the state of being Muslim, is not an easy reminder. Dying as a Muslim is not an easy job. Dying in a manner that is accepting to Allah is the hardest test upon those who believe in Allah and His Messenger. Sakratul Maut is the most difficult part of being in the dunya. In fact, Sakratul Maut could be a window to the akhirah of what is to come potentially. The Sakratul Maut period could be very easy for those who have believed in Allah, lived a consistent life in belief and good deeds, in sincerity and in deeds that are most accepting to Allah, that the end result, Allah blesses them with that opportunity to go back to Allah in a manner that is accepting, in comfort and in ease. But it could be the opposite if Allah wills. We don't determine our deaths. We don't determine how we die, where we will die, when we will die. But we have the opportunity to make a difference to the journey of our death by making a difference to the journey of our life. For the last 5-6 weeks, myself and some of the brothers, perhaps some sisters who attend, we were going through a book titled The Purification of the Soul. And we were talking about different aspects of our internal qualities and internal conditions, because we said to each other that to be Muslim on the outside often is very easy, but to make the internal and the external come together is very difficult. To look like a Muslim often can be very easy, but to look like a Muslim inside, where Allah is really looking at me and you, is very difficult and it's a struggle. And Allah loves those who struggle. So don't take struggle as something not as good news. You and I rather be struggling to submit to Allah than not to be submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So if I and you are struggling to obey Allah, to fulfill His command, that in itself is a good sign and in itself is a good blessing. Imagine living a life where there was no struggling to submit to Allah. You submit to everything other than the one who created me and you. And there are millions of people that live on earth in that state. As we sit here, millions are living lives where they have everything except to know and be clear that inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, that they come from Allah and they're going back to Him. Millions. I was listening to something quite profound this morning. You know, when atheists, those who don't believe in a God, ask the idea of there not being a God, the Sheikh he said something very beautiful. He said the fact that you have atheists is a sign that God exists. For Allah is allowing the atheist to be an atheist, to breathe, to eat, to sleep, and to deny Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. That in itself is sufficient as a sign to say God exists. The fact that He allows that, He tolerates that. Although we are told وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that I have created the jinn and insan for nothing except to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the purpose of human beings is made very clear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yet He allows those who want to deny Him that time, that opportunity, that space. He gives them the best of the dunya, the most luxury, most comfort, all of those things. He gives them all the blessings like some of us He gives, yet they don't have guidance. He subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to tolerate that. If Allah wanted to punish those who deny Him, is it very difficult for Him to do so? It's not very difficult to do. The same atheist who denies God and the one who believes in God gets the same headache. If an atheist had a headache and you have a headache, it's the same headache. If you need rest out of your headache, the atheist also needs a rest out of that same headache. Okay? So the atheist is given that opportunity, the believer is also given that opportunity. So when we see those who deny Allah, it should give us more to say that this is how merciful He subhanahu wa ta'ala is, that He allows those who deny Him to be on the same place, in the same space, in the same time, in the same life, with the same gifts. Because inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. From Allah you come, and to Allah you will return. And that's a statement. When someone dies, is not for them. Really, it's for me and you. Because the one who has died has gone. Their deeds has come to an end. But those who are living, they still have time and opportunity to take lesson from the one who has gone. So every time we recite those words, truly it's for me and for you to say, know that you come from Allah and know that you are going back to Allah. Human beings find it very difficult to do everything but to realize this and have firmness in this. To be mustaqim. It's very easy for Yahya to say, yes, I come from Allah. And then also to say, I'm going back to Allah. But to live that reality in life is where that is really tested. So coming back to all of these things that we do as Muslims, as believers, if our words and our deeds do not match with our sincerity to Allah, when we say there is no God but Allah, how much do we really mean it? How much does that manifest in the way I am patient in life, in the way I behave in life, in the way I deal with hard times, in the way I deal with good times? Really, that's something that all of us, young and old, we have to slowly develop. That attitude that what we should be concerned with is the things that please Allah, and we should be concerned with the things that displeases Allah, and that we do whatever we can to do the things that pleases Allah, and to make ourselves and others be prevented from the things that displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in talking about the purification of the soul, I recited to you a very small verse of the Quran, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنَّ الْقُلُوبِ, that in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. We live in a time of the world, in a space, in a period of the world where people are remembering everything other than the fact that there is a God, and that they come from a God, and that they will go back to a God. People are trying to find rest. They have the whole of the dunya, yet this thing inside them is empty, is missing. And our faith, Islam, its teachings, its prophet, the Quran, gives us the opportunity to have the best of this world and the best of the akhirah. It gives us this balanced existence that we can have if we choose to take it on board. And it's this faith that gives us the ability to deal with the most difficult thing in life and to deal with the most easy thing in life. Because we know that no matter how difficult something is, Allah has something better in a reality beyond this temporary reality. Why? Because you train yourself in your life with your words and with your deeds to be able to be happy and be satisfied with Allah, what Allah gives. And truly in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. Money does not buy you rest. Money does not buy you comfort that comforts the soul. Money can buy you everything of the dunya, but money cannot give you anything for this heart. This heart is created like the body, but it has a bit more than the body's work. That this heart has a role here, and it has a role in a life beyond this life. And we can capture that on earth. So we talked about the importance of intention. We talked about the importance of the heart, and we talked about how the heart can be a healthy heart, could be a dead heart, could be a sick heart. We talked about some of the symptoms of the heart's disease. We talked about some of the some of the cures. We talked about some of the poisons and passions of the heart, which we talked about, excessive speaking. We talked about excessive looking. We talked about excessive eating. We talked about the importance of good companions. A lot of young people here today. Our friends are people that can help us be the best of human beings in this dunya and gain the best in the life hereafter. Or our friends can be people who can make us the worst of human beings in this life and gain the worst of the life in the other life. So we should be very careful of who we call call our friends and our parents and guardians, we should be also very conscious about who our young take as their role models and as their friends. And this is not theory. You can't just tell them, oh, the Prophet is your role model. You and I have to live some of that in our lives, with our words, with our deeds, in the way we spend money on our children, so that they can actually feel those things in action. If mom or dad is saying do this and do that, and mom and dad are not very consistent in doing those things, how can our children pick those things up? You know, if we're talking about encouraging our children to have good friends, how friendly are we with our own children to begin with? What's the communication? Is it one where it's two-way, or is it do? So the kids are always being told do this and don't do that. There is an element that the parent has in saying don't do this and do this. But there is a lot more space where they are doing things collectively, where our young are learning from our examples. What gives the heart life and sustenance? We all have hearts, we all want to obey Allah, but we want to obey Allah in a manner that is accepting to Him. We should know that acts of obedience are essential to the well-being of the servant's heart, just in the same way that food and drink are to the body. All wrong actions are the same as poisonous foods, and they inevitably harm the heart. Just like we have food to support our stomachs, we also have food that must support our heart. Okay? When we were talking about the healthy heart and the sick heart, I was slightly joking and saying today we're going to do some surgery work. Because when we talk about heart, quite often we connect it with heart disease and these kind of things. Yes, these are some of the physical issues. But what about other issues? Because the heart has a role in the dunya and the heart has a role in the akhirah. So when we talk about stomachs needing food, in the same way, the heart also needs food. The servant feels the need to worship his Lord, for he is naturally in constant need of his help and assistance. Those who are true believers, they will always feel that need to obey Allah, to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to always ask Allah for help. In order to maintain the well-being of someone's body, the servant carefully follows a strict diet. He or she habitually constantly eats good food at regular intervals and is quick to free his stomach of harmful elements if he happens to eat bad food by mistake. Many of us are very health conscious, very important, beginning with me. So we will choose the type of food we eat, the time we eat, the quantity of food we eat. This is all very, very important to the well-being of the heart. But just like the way we select the food that we eat, the time that we eat, the amount of food we eat, the heart also needs that spiritually. It needs spiritual food at a certain time, in a certain way, in a certain amount, on a certain regular basis. The well-being of the servant's heart, however, is far more important than that of his body. For while the well-being of his body enables him to lead a life that is free from illness in this world, the heart ensures him both a fortunate life in this world and eternal bliss in the next. This is the key connecting point of the purification of the heart. That no matter what you do to have a healthy physical heart in the dunya, it's limited here. But what you do to make your heart spiritually sound is connected to a great life here, whatever it is. It could be 20 years, it could be 50 years, it could be 90 years, it could be more than 100. But also in a life beyond this life, the eternal bliss in the next life. In the same way, while the death of the body cuts the servant off from this world, the death of the heart results in everlasting anguish. Death stops the body from continuing any of its functions for this world. The death of the heart is worse and is much severe, because if the heart is dead, it's lost a lot in this world, but it's lost almost everything in the next, except by the mercy of the most merciful subhanahu wa ta'ala. A righteous man once said, How odd that some people cry for the one whose body has died, but never mourn for the one whose heart has died, and yet death of the heart is far more serious. It's a very profound, very concise statement. It's easy for us to cry when someone passes away. It's natural, it's normal, and we should. If tears do not come out of our eyes when someone dies in general, that means there's something wrong with us. Those who don't have lives where they cry, there's something wrong with that heart. That is in itself a sign. Those who find it difficult to cry often, there's something wrong with that heart. You should take that as a sign. And I say that about myself before anyone else. You can check your own self. How often you find opportunities to cry. Not deliberately, but when the corporate moments of crying comes, how much and how often. For example, when I pray, do I feel anything like wanting to cry? When I make dua, does it really make me beg? You know, that I'm so desperate to gain the mercy of the most merciful. I'm so desperate to gain the forgiveness of the most forgiving one, subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, how much is my eyes and my words and my hands connected to this thing that I have, that I'm carrying? So it's easy for us to mourn when someone's body has left this world. But how often are we mourning about a heart that is dead? You know, when someone's not guided, we should feel difficulty. That subhanallah, this person is missing out on the best of the dunya and most importantly the akhirah. We should feel that. You know, when we talk about da'wah, one aspect, one of the baselines should be within me, that how important it is for human beings to be guided. How important it is for human beings to gain access to a reality beyond this reality. How can I find ways of freeing this person who is trapped with everything except with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We as Muslims should feel that. When we see non-Muslims, we should feel sorry that they're missing out on the most important thing that they were created for. We should feel sorry within. Not, oh, I feel sorry for you that you're not Muslim and I am. No. We within us, that how lucky am I, how honored am I that I became Muslim through my family and my family through so and so, all the way back to the most honored man sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his message. How honored I am and how unlucky this person is. But Allah is testing me to see if I can be the person through whom a window to the heart of that person is opened. How is Yahya's words and deeds opening windows to the hearts of his colleagues, or the teacher at school, or the caretaker of a building, or the guy that you go and buy your grocery from, or the postman that you regularly see to whom you open your door? And the fact that every time you open your door you smile, and that starts resonating in the eyes, in his head, in his heart, that who is this person? Can you imagine? A postman becomes Muslim just by the way you smile every time you open the door. Don't underestimate that. It's possible. Do not underestimate that. Sometimes we think that, oh, people will become Muslim because we're just keeping them, telling them. No. Dr. Zakir has his job to do. We are not all Dr. Zakir. We don't need to be. We just need to be the best of human beings. To be the best of human beings is to be the best of Muslims. That wherever we go, wherever Yahya goes, wherever you go, that Yahya leaves something through the way he speaks or the way he behaves. That's a much powerful message. That message is connected, as they say, whatever is from the heart will go to the heart. It may be some time, but it will go. The acts of obedience are indispensable to the well-being of the heart. It is worthwhile mentioning the following acts of obedience, since they are very necessary and essential to the servant's hearts. So for the heart to be healthy and sound and to be connected with Allah and connecting with Allah. You know, Islam is not a state of being, brothers and sisters. Islam is a state of becoming. You know, when the Quranic ayah says, وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ, and do not die except in a state of being a Muslim, it means constantly working towards becoming one. My today and tomorrow cannot be the same. And I say that about myself before anyone else. And that's the way I should measure. How is my today compared to my yesterday? And how will tomorrow be compared to today? Because every second that I breathe is a second that's gone from that opportunity to become a better Muslim. Now, the heart requires obedience. Without obedience, the heart cannot develop strength in serving Allah in a sincere way. And these are a few things that we should be conscious about. And we will try to elaborate on them and finish off, inshallah. The dhikr of Allah, the reading of the Quran, the istighfar, seeking Allah's forgiveness, doing tawbah, making dua, giving salawat, durud upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we have dhikr of Allah, reciting the Quran, seeking Allah's forgiveness, making dua, and salawat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, brothers, as we sit here, what we're doing, is this dhikr at all or not? Can this be known as dhikr? Is it possible to call this dhikr? Yes or no?
Yes.
Of course it's dhikr. Dhikr is what? To remember. Dhikrullah is to remember Allah. And what we're doing here is part of that dhikr. I'm not saying this is the only dhikr that we engage in. This is part of the dhikr. Okay? So dhikr, the reading of the Quran. The reading of the Quran in itself is dhikr. But the reading of the Quran in itself is not only dhikr, there's fikr in there, and there is shukr as well. That you're not only reading, you're remembering, you're contemplating, and you're thanking, and you're showing your gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Seeking Allah's forgiveness. Now there is no one sitting here except some of you guys, because you're still too young to not be forgiven by Allah. Or some of you boys are lucky. I wish I was your age again. Okay? And put your hands up if you're not 12 yet. That's one man. That's two man. Okay, there's three. There's a few more. You guys are living. You guys are living without. You're untouchable at the moment when it comes to God's accountability. But in maybe a year or two, you're going to get hooked up like that. The angels are going to be writing. What good things are you doing? What bad things are you doing? Okay? So enjoy it while it lasts, but it's not for too long. Okay? Now, forgiveness, asking. There is no one in general, as human beings, and more in particular as Muslims, that do not need the forgiveness of Allah. There is no man sitting here, or a woman upstairs, or anyone on earth, who has the courage to be able to say, I don't need the forgiveness of Allah. If Yahya was questioned from the age of 11, on the age of being baligh, that's where the accountability starts, about Yahya's tongue, that would be enough to be punished by Allah. For this tongue has done many things other than remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I am sure all of us will fall short in this way or that way. So to seek Allah's forgiveness gives life to the heart. To remember Allah, to read the Quran, to make dua. Dua is a very powerful way of doing dhikr. You know, often when you need something, you beg hard enough. And you know, when you realize that you can't get it from anything other than Allah, it becomes even more tasty. Doesn't it? When you realize clearly enough that you cannot get it from anyone or anything except Allah, it becomes even more powerful. It becomes even more tasty. It becomes even more meaningful. It becomes real, connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't underestimate dua. There are different times of dua during the day. After salah is a very good time. During the late night period of the night is a good time. On your own, nobody knows, and you are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a great opportunity. Do not underestimate the power of dua. Dua is one of the descriptions of dua is that dua is the weapon of the believer. Okay? Or ad-dua mukhul ibadah. Dua is like the heart of worship. Because worship is what? Submitting to Allah. If you really believe that no one else can give you something except Allah, then you submit like that. You realize that He is the master and you are the slave. And you will do nothing except to beg for His mercy, for His forgiveness, for His kindness. Now dhikr, the remembrance of Allah and the recitation of the Quran. One of the Shaykhs, Ibn Taymiyyah, he said something very profound. This is about dhikr, he's saying. Remembrance of Allah is to the heart what water is to the fish. Why is he giving the fish as an example? How is the fish being in the water and the heart doing dhikr? In this similar example, what is he trying to say? He said remembrance of Allah, listen to this very carefully. Remembrance of Allah is to the heart what water is to the fish. Why, brothers?
Fish needs water to survive.
And what does the heart need?
Dua and
Dhikr. Amazing. So, you take the fish out of the water, it's a dead man, or sorry, dead fish. Okay, in that sense of the word. So you and I take ourselves out of dhikr. It's a heart that is, it's a dead, there's a dead man walking. That's you can continue walking, but you're walking to everything and anything and everything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's saying, he adds, what happens to fish when it is taken out of water? Nice, we all know. The fish will die. In the same way, if we live lives where there is no dhikr of Allah, slowly the heart will begin to die. It will be physically living, but it will be connected to everything other than where it should be connected to, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, he wrote a nice book which pointed to the 80 benefits of remembering Allah. It's a book called Al-Wabil Al-Sayyib min Kalimat Tayyib. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim was a student of Ibn Taymiyyah. May Allah have mercy upon them both and be pleased with them both. This book, Al-Wabil Al-Sayyib, is called The Invocation of God. It's available in English, it's translated. It's very nice, it's about dua, to be honest. And it's actually an explanation of a book that Ibn Taymiyyah wrote. It was mainly about dua, and it's called Kalimat Tayyib, the good words. And then Ibn al-Qayyim, he added more commentary, and the English translation is called The Invocation of God. And here's some of those in relation to the remembrance of Allah and the recitation of the Quran. And we'll finish with these things as a reminder for me and for you. Remembrance of Allah is sustenance for both the heart and the spirit. If the servant is deprived of it, he becomes like a body which has been deprived of food. And we gave the example that, no matter how much food you have, you will not have food that will help you with your prayer. The real food to help me and you with our prayer, with our dhikr, with our tilawah, is the food of the soul. Okay? If we want to gain more from our prayer, our soul has to get more food. Prayer in itself is the food of the soul. Dhikr itself is the food of the soul. Tilawah itself is the food of the soul. Istighfar is the food of the soul. Salawat, durood upon the Prophet ﷺ is the food of the soul. Remembrance of Allah also drives away shaitan, suppressing him and breaking him. It is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It dispels worry and all sorts of distress. It instills love for Allah, fear of Allah, and relating to all the matters that is pleasing to Allah. It also enhances Allah's remembrance of His servant, for as Allah says. Remember, the more dhikr you do, what does Allah say about dhikr? Allah says something so wonderful. We already said that in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. But what does Allah say? When you do dhikr of me, what does He do? فَاذْكُرُنِي أَذْكُرُكُمْ. So remember me and I will remember you. Who does not want Allah to remember them? Allah doesn't need us to remember Him. We need Allah to remember us. Can you imagine? Some of the ulama, they say something so beautiful. They say the biggest punishment for a human being is that Allah turns away from you without guidance. So Allah takes guidance away from you. That is the biggest punishment a human being can have. You can be tortured, you can be slaughtered, whatever. That's not big punishment. But to be denied and deprived of the guidance of Allah is the biggest punishment on the soul. On the dunya. That's the biggest in the dunya. And in the akhirah, to be denied the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The wajh. The Lord that you and I tried to submit to. And we were talking about the idea of Jannah, and the Prophet ﷺ teaches us, ask for Al-Firdaus. and we know how beautiful Firdaus Jannah is described in the Quran. If we know and believe how beautiful the garden is, what do you think about the gardener? So to be denied the face of Allah, to gain Jannah, but to be able to see the one who made the garden. That's the highest gift, to be able to see the one who made and gives you the garden. So in the akhirah, to be denied that is the highest state. It's not an easy one to be, but that's the real mu'min gaining that. The face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala jalla wa ala is the biggest punishment. If we are denied that, we lost. Of course, we'll be happy with whatever paradise Allah gives, but a real servant really wants to see the one who made this garden, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to be deprived of guidance in the dunya, that Allah turns away from me and you, is the biggest punishment. Don't think losing this and losing that is a massive punishment. To be without guidance, for Allah to turn away from me and you, is the biggest punishment. So Allah is saying to me and to you, is so remember me and I will remember you. He's making a commitment that remember me, I will. Does Allah need to tell you that I will remember you? It's sufficient for me to know that He created me, and therefore I need to submit to Allah and to remember Him. But Allah is saying, فَاذْكُرُنِي أَذْكُرُكُمْ. Remember me and I will remember you. That's a guarantee. Every time that you sincerely remember Allah, with your salah, siyam, qiyam, ruku, sujood, all your good deeds, know that Allah will remember you. But how do you define what Allah should remember you of? Is it that you need some money in 10 years time, so if you get it, then you realize, oh, Allah did remember me? That could be one, but that's a very small thing. You don't know when Allah is keeping an eye on you, but Allah is always keeping an eye on you. There's no time where you can say, is Allah keeping? You're in, as they say, you're in safe hands. You're in good hands. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving everyone their due. You can only gain of your rizq what is written for you. So Allah is continuously remembering me and you. The question is, how often does Yahya remember Allah? And number one, how well does he remember Allah? How much of his dhikr is ikhlas, with ikhlas? Is it really for Allah? When we talk about Allah is one, the oneness of Allah is manifested in the way when I say Allahu Akbar, is Allah really the greatest? That's where that one comes through. When I ask and I really believe that Allah will give me, that's where the oneness of Allah is coming through. That you truly believe that He is one. That in your head, in your heart, on your tongue, in your life, you don't bring anything in partner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you talk about your rizq, you know that Allah is Al-Razzaq and we are Marzuq. He is the sustainer and we are the one needing nourishment. Who has not been fed for the last 20, 30 years sitting here? Every day of your life, my life, minimum you are eating physically maybe twice a day. Think of the last time you didn't eat. The problem is most of us cannot even think of that last time. It's impossible to think. Yet there are people who can do that. We sit here, people in Syria can do that. For the last 4 years, maybe many people probably had food 2-3 times a month. Or living on, almost crumbs. And we are living in realities where we can't even think of the last time Yahya or you were deprived of clean water. Subhanallah al-Azim. So Allah is telling me and you very clearly, remember me and I will remember you. Even if this were the only reward for the remembrance of Allah, it would be mercy and honor enough. So such a heart is always aware and free from wrong action. Can you imagine? If the only prize that you get of remembrance of Allah is that Allah remembers you, is that not enough? That is enough. If that's the only prize you get. And when Allah says He will remember you, don't forget it's not limited to this dunya. We really want Him to remember us over there. The true believer really wants Allah to look after him over there. That's why some of the ulama will say, if I have to be punished for something that I've done wrong, I prefer to be punished here on earth than to be punished somewhere else. For the punishment somewhere else is incomparable to the punishment in the dunya. Okay? So when we want Allah to remember us, where do we really want Him to remember us? We might worship Him all our life and we gain nothing except to live and then we die. But we get the real reward. His forgiveness, His paradise, His face. That has to be the greatest remembrance that Allah does for us. Although remembrance is one of the easiest forms of worship, the mercy and honor that brings, it cannot be achieved by any other means. Abu Hurairah reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever recites the words, there is no God but Allah, the one having no partner with Him, sovereignty belongs to Allah, and all praise is due to Him. So La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la, lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu, wa huwa ala kulli shayin qadir. Is a very profound dhikr. It is simply saying that there is no God but Allah, the one who has no partner. He is sovereign and everything belongs to Him and all praise is due to Him, and He is powerful over everything. And someone says this 100 times a day, 100 times a day there is a reward equal to freeing 10 slaves for him, and 100 good actions are recorded for him against shaitan on that day until evening. And no one brings anything more excellent than this except the one who has done more than this. So to be able to say La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la, lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu wa huwa ala kulli shayin qadir 100 times a day protects us in many ways that we cannot even see. Allah forgives us for many things that we have done. Let's take the opportunity. Dhikr is something you can sit and do, you can stand and do, you can work and do some dhikr. You have dhikr that is of direct form. You will sit somewhere to do istighfar, to read the Quran. Your dhikr can be, you're a businessman, you treat people justly and fairly. That is also part of your dhikr. Don't underestimate your job as being part of dhikr. If you are trustworthy, if you do your job accordingly, if you respect the time of your job, your job description, the accountability, all of that is part of dhikr. All of that is making sure that what we earn is lawful and halal. If our earning is lawful and halal, that in itself is dhikr. Don't underestimate dhikr. Don't stereotype dhikr to be in a place, in a location, at a time. This is one aspect and a part of dhikr. Salah is the greatest dhikr. Allah is not asking you to, Allah is asking us to remember Him all the time, but not to make salah all the time. You see the difference? That in itself tells you that living on earth is also about dhikr. Some aspects of the dhikr becomes much more intense, others become much more open. What we're doing here is part of that dhikr. Jabir reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever recites the words, glory be to Allah, and He is the one to be praised, will have a palm tree planted for him in the garden. Hadith that encourages you about the remembrance of Allah. So to say Subhanallah, Walhamdulillah, if you like, something as simple like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to the Prophet ﷺ that in Jannah a tree will be planted for that person who does that kind of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of this is just encouraging and bringing all of us together towards saying and reminding us how important dhikr is. Ibn Mas'ud, one of the Sahaba, very famous, may Allah be pleased with him, said, to praise Allah, may He be exalted, is more dear to me than spending the same number of dinars in the way of Allah. So Ibn Mas'ud, who is one of the most prominent Sahaba, if you like, he's saying that, just to say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, this saying to me is more precious than spending in the way of Allah. This is how he found his, we're not saying that one is better, that's to him, in trying to remind us how important dhikr is. Remembrance of Allah is a remedy for the hearts. A man once told Al-Hasan is one of the grandsons of the Prophet ﷺ, "Oh Abu Sa'id, I complain to you about the hardness of my heart." He said, soften it with the remembrance of Allah. Makhul, another person said, remembrance of Allah is a sign of health, while remembrance of people is like a disease. A man once asked Salman, which deeds are best? He said, haven't you read in the Quran, and the remembrance of Allah is the greatest. وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ. You know, when you listen to the khutbah, the ending, just before they will say, إِقَامَةُ الصَّلَاةِ وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ. It's just to tell you that, and the remember, because you're just about to begin direct remembrance of Allah, because you're going to go into salah, and the Quran, you know, Quranic verse just before that is reminding you, after all of this, and the remembrance of Allah, wala dhikrullahi akbar, and the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the greatest. And my dear brothers, my elders, and all of you who are here, our hearts need food. Our stomach is given food. I'm not worried about how much food is needed for the stomach, because we're all making efforts to give our stomachs the food. But I'm worried about myself, and maybe some of us, about how much food we are giving to our soul, to our heart. And really, I was sitting here, and this reminder to me first before you is really to say, you know, yes, we should take care of our bodies, and therefore we should eat healthy, we should eat good food, we should eat the right quantity at the right time, in the right place, in the right portion, and to use that energy in a constructive and productive way. But we're saying something more important, that as much concern as you can see and show, can you imagine the diet industry makes millions out of human beings in being concerned about health and diet? Yes or no? We are a victim of that. You know, like we are much more, alhamdulillah, through our children, I think. Our fathers are more, they read the labels much more than they ever did before. Trying to, you know, the kids are encouraging them, which is all good. So we're all concerned about this physical stomach and the impact it has upon us. But how much are we concerned? How many billions have been spent on the food of the heart and the food of the soul? We don't need billions to be spent by others. We have. Allah has spent the revelation to us as that. The Quran and the final Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and his way as the way to gain the best of this dunya and the best of the akhirah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to make our hearts ones that are accepting to Him. May Allah make our deeds, our words and our actions ones that are accepting to Him at all times. May Allah make us people that wherever we go, the quality of our heart is reflected by the words and our actions around the people that we are. And may Allah make all of those things accepting to Him. May Allah make us people of iman, people of taqwa, people of ikhlas, people of istighfar, people of dhikr, people of fikr, people of shukr. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our children a sadaqah jariyah for us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make all our good deeds a sadaqah jariyah for us. For if we do not invest in our children in the proper way, then we will not benefit, and we don't need any benefit from our children, except that when we leave this world, they remember us in their dua. This is really what we want from them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this from us and from you all. Anything good I shared with you is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything wrong is due to my lackings and my shortcomings. And I remind myself and you again, that if you find me doing something other than what I shared with you, please find a way to me and tell me, you said this, you're not doing this, because I need it more than most of you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to come again to His house and to remember Him and to sit and learn from each other and to benefit from each other. Inshallah, the Gansil Halaqah will happen next week. Please join, please bring others. If you bring another person with you, inshallah, you will be added to the reward of coming here on your own this time. But inshallah, it will be doubled if not trebled. So try to make an effort. Bring your kids, bring your family members, friends and neighbors. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Subhanak Allahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Inshallah, next week, hopefully, Brother Abul Kalam will start or continue on the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what we're planning to do. Jazakallah khair. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.